Hello, my name is Steve. Welcome to Essay. A woman didn't come home all night after get off work. The next morning, her housemaid found her car on a road not far from home, but it was empty. The maids are very knowledgeable about the family situation of the hostess. The maid's employer has had serious marital problems recently. There is a saying, it's always the husband. After the incident, the police did list the woman's husband as the #1 suspect. But is that really the case? Next, I will tell you the story. The story takes place in New York State, which is located in the northeastern United States and is the nerve center and economic heart of the United States. There is a small town in southern New York called Spencer, which is located on the western border of Tioga County, and is home to about 3,000 people. The protagonist of the story is named Michelle, who was born in 1965 and is a cheerful girl. She attended State University of New York, Morrisville College. After graduation, she went to work in a car sales company. While working, she met a man named Carl Harris. 2 years older than Michelle, he was born into a wealthy family whose car sales company was his family business. Carl was deeply attracted by Michelle's appearance, so he began to pursue her. It didn't take long for the two to become lovers. The year 1990, 27-year-old Carl and 25-year-old Michelle entered the hall of marriage. They had a grand wedding, and Michelle became a full-time housewife at home after the wedding. Carl bought a manor in the town a few years later. The estate covers 252 acres and includes a 2-story villa. There is also a small lake called Empire Lake at the rear of the estate, which is a pleasant sight. The year 2000, Michelle and Carl have been living on the estate for 6 years. They already have 4 children. In order to take better care of the family, they hired a maid named Barb. Barb's house is not far from the manor. Every morning, she drives to the estate to take care of Michelle's 4 children, and returns to home at night. In 2001, 35-year-old Michelle was bored at home for so long, so she took a job as a waitress at a local restaurant. Let's look at the map. The location of the manor is here. The restaurant where Michelle works is here. The place is located in Waverly, not far from the town of Spencer. The two are 24 kilometers apart and it takes about 20 minutes to drive. Every afternoon Michelle drives to the restaurant to work and then returns home in the evening. However, one evening in the late fall, Michelle disappeared after get off work. September 12, 2001, was a Wednesday. It was just dawn at 7 in the morning when Michelle's husband, Carl, called Barb, the maid. He said Michelle didn't come home from get off work last night and didn't know where she went. He was going to work soon, and there was no one to take care of the children at home, so he hoped that the maid Barb would come over earlier. After the call, the maid Barb drove to the manor. When she was about to arrive, she suddenly saw a golden Ford compact car on the side of the road. The place was only about 400 meters away from the manor house, and Barb recognized it as Michelle's car at a glance. She wondered, how could Michelle's car be parked here? The maid Barb came to the side of the car suspiciously. She found that the door was not closed, the key was still in the car, and there was no one in the car. Although the maid Barb was a little puzzled, she went to the villa without thinking too much. After entering the house, she called out Michelle's name, but only Carl responded to her. At this time, Carl was fully dressed and was about to leave the villa to go to work in the company. Barb told Carl that she had just seen Michelle's car on the side of the road. Carl was very surprised when he heard it, and he hurried to the spot where the vehicle was found. Once there, Carl opened the trunk of the car. They saw clothes, letters, magazines, toys and food wrapping paper in the trunk of the car. There are some stains on the surface of the car. Carl said Michelle had said before leaving home yesterday that she was going to meet a classmate in New York City, where she would be staying for a few days. She might have hitchhiked off, and Carl let Barb not have to worry. The maid Barb didn't really believe Carl's words. Because the location of the vehicle is very remote, few people usually pass there. This location is also some distance from the town, and no one will walk to the town. The maid, Barb, wonders what may have happened to Michelle. Carl ignored her questioning. He asked Barb to drive Michelle's car home to have it cleaned. Then Carl went to work at the company. Barb knew Carl's character. Michelle once said she caught her husband Carl cheating on a female employee while she was pregnant with her youngest child. Michelle and Carl separated after the baby was born. Michelle filed for divorce from Carl not long ago and hired a lawyer. After that, the two quarreled several times at home. During this period, Barb also heard Carl threatening Michelle in an attempt to prevent the divorce. This just happened gave Barb a very bad feeling. She made a call to Michelle's cell phone as soon as she pulled the car into the villa's garage. But Michelle's phone remained unanswered. She then contacted Michelle's divorce attorney. The lawyer tried to contact Michelle's friend after learning of the situation, but no one knew where she went. The lawyer then called the police. At 9:40 a.m., the police went to Carl's company. Carl told police that Michelle had never spent the night outside before. Although the two are about to divorce, he still has feelings for Michelle. As for where Michelle went, Carl said he really didn't know. To prove his innocence, he took the police to his estate and allowed them to search. The police then dispatched searchers, who took police dogs to search in the manor and nearby areas. During the search, a helicopter was also dispatched to look for anything suspicious. Several divers searched the lake behind the villa but found no sign of Michelle. After the search was unsuccessful, police began an investigation into Michelle's relationships. They learned that Michelle met a lover named Brian early during the divorce settlement with Carl. The man, a surveyor whom they met at a bar, currently lives in Tioga, 30 kilometers from the restaurant where Michelle works. Police came to the restaurant where Michelle worked to investigate. A colleague said Michelle had come to work at the restaurant the afternoon before she disappeared. She was late for work because her overalls had not yet dried. At 9 p.m., when the restaurant closed, Michelle and a few colleagues came to a nearby parking lot and had some drinks there. During this period, Michelle told colleagues that she had planned to go to New York this day to sell some of her jewelry. But there were some security incidents in New York in the morning, and she knew that New York City had traffic restrictions, so she couldn't go to New York City. At 9:30 p.m., Michelle said goodbye to her colleagues and drove off alone. Police found Michelle's lover Brian, who said Michelle came to his home at 10 p.m. that night. The two drank a little, and Brian said he was a little drunk that day, but vaguely remembered Michelle leaving between 11 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. The police were suspicious of Brian's testimony, so they took a polygraph on him. As a result, Brian passed the polygraph. Colleagues at Michelle's restaurant said that Michelle will travel to New York to sell jewelry. The husband Carl once told the maid Barb that Michelle went to New York to visit her classmates. The two statements are inconsistent. Police then found Michelle's classmate. She said that she did make an appointment with Michelle to meet in New York at night. She didn't see Michelle that night, probably because of traffic control. Police investigated Michelle's financial situation, with high credit card debts. Her lover Brian also said he and Michelle were planning to buy a property some time ago. Michelle sells jewelry for a down payment on a property and to pay off credit card debt. As the police investigate further, they discover that Michelle actually has another lover. The man's name is Michael Casper, the manager of the restaurant where Michelle works and has a criminal record. Because Michelle has multiple lovers, police suspect her disappearance may be related to relationship issues. They also took a polygraph on Michael, and he passed. Michelle's husband, Carl, was then investigated again by police. In March 2001, Carl threatened Michelle several times during his divorce lawsuit with Michelle. He also claimed to be able to keep the police from finding her. 3 months later, the court ordered Carl to pay Michelle $400 a month to live on until the divorce. Because Carl threatened his wife before, the court immediately banned him from using firearms. Carl's fortune is estimated at $5.4 million. Carl's condition: he gives Michelle custody of the child and pays a $740,000 divorce settlement. But Michelle disagreed, and she wanted to fight for the greater good. Based on these clues, the police believe that Carl has a motive for killing his wife. 3 days after Michelle disappeared, the police came to Carl's estate again. They didn't have a search warrant, but Carl agreed to let the police conduct a search. This time the police made some new discoveries. They found some red stains on the garage entrance and on the walls inside the garage. After testing the red stains to be blood, the police applied for a search warrant to the court on this grounds. They then conducted a more detailed search of the entire estate. Sure enough, they found blood on the kitchen floor, on the carpet and on the door. A black leather bag with jewels was also found in Michelle's car, along with her mobile phone. Some missed calls and a friend's voicemail were recorded on the phone. Technicians extracted the fingerprints of Carl, Brian and an unknown person in the car, but no blood was found on the car. In response to the findings, Carl said Michelle accidentally cut her finger in the garage last month, and the blood may have been from that time. As for the blood in the kitchen, Carl said he didn't know about it. Police believe that Michelle may have encountered an accident at the manor's villa, and the suspect is Carl. He had a motive and time to commit the crime, but this evidence alone cannot bring charges against him. All they have to do now is find Michelle. A month after Michelle disappeared, police installed a GPS tracking device in Carl's car and kept him under surveillance. Carl showed no signs of worry or sadness for the next period of time. He works every day as if nothing had happened. Michelle's family believes Michelle's disappearance is related to Carl. They said Carl threatened Michelle with a shotgun 5 years ago. Michelle was so frightened that she hid in the closet and called her family for help. On the day Michelle disappeared, she had just negotiated a divorce agreement with a lawyer, and Carl had to pay Michelle $80,000 a year. The family believes Carl must not have wanted to pay the money, so Michelle's disappearance must have something to do with him. For years after the incident, Michelle is still missing. It is also possible to convict a suspect without finding a victim. But it's hard to prove that the killer is Carl in this type of case. However, the police still charged Carl with second-degree murder after collecting some circumstantial evidence and witnesses. In May 2007, 6 years after Michelle disappeared, the case was heard at the Tioga County Courthouse. One of Michelle's barbers, a prosecution witness, testified. He said she had visited the barber's shop a few months before Michelle disappeared. Then she received a call from her husband Carl. The barber could clearly hear Carl on the other end of the phone threatening Michelle and threatening to make her disappear. Police found some bloodstains in the villa. Although these bloodstains cannot be 100% certain that they came from Michelle, they can be certain that they came from Michelle or her immediate family. Carl claimed the bloodstains were from a month before Michelle disappeared. The prosecution also invited legal claims expert Dr. Henry Lee to appear in court. Henry Lee said the blood found at the scene was bright red. Although he couldn't say exactly when the bloodstain appeared, but if the bloodstain was left a month ago, it would definitely be brown. Through simulation experiments, Dr. Lee believes that the blood on the door is likely to be splashed on the door, or it may be dripping from a place 74 centimeters above the floor. More than 40 tiny drops of blood were found on the carpet in the villa's kitchen. These were likely left by blood spattering when Michelle was hit by an object. In addition, a diamond-shaped bloodstain was found on the ground, which the police believed was left by the murder weapon. In court, Carl admitted he had threatened Michelle, but that was because of emotional swings due to the divorce. He denied that Michelle's disappearance had anything to do with him. After a lengthy deliberations, 12 jurors unanimously found Carl Harris guilty. The court will also sentence Carl in 2 months' time. However, just a day after the guilty verdict was announced, a farm worker named Kevin Tubbs provided information to the court. He said he drove past where Michelle's vehicle was parked at about 5:30 a.m. on the day Michelle disappeared. He saw a black or dark blue Chevrolet pickup and another car believed to be Michelle parked there. Next to the pickup stood a man in his 20s with a slightly darker complexion, a white t-shirt and black hair. Beside the man, a blonde woman seemed to be crying sadly. Although it was still dark when Kevin drove past, the headlights illuminated the two. So he can confirm that the woman of the two is Michelle, and the man is not Carl. This is a photo of Carl at the time. His hair is brown and somewhat bald. Kevin said the man he saw was very different from Carl. Another witness also sent a letter to the court. He said he also passed by where Michelle's car was parked that day and saw a man and a woman arguing beside two cars. Police tried to locate the witness, but he died of illness shortly after the letter was sent, so the authenticity of the letter could not be verified. The court chose to believe the testimony of key eyewitness Kevin after its verdict. They dismissed Carl's conviction and granted Carl bail, with the case adjourned for retrial. More than 2 years later, the second trial opened in the Tioga County Courthouse. The prosecution presented the same evidence as the first time, and defense witness Kevin also testified. In order to confirm the authenticity of Kevin's testimony, his parents also testified in court. They said Kevin did pass by the place the day Michelle disappeared. The prosecution naturally questioned Kevin's testimony. At the time of the crime, Michelle's disappearance was known to almost everyone in town. Why didn't Kevin provide clues at the time? Police investigations revealed that in 2006 Kevin was arrested by police for not being able to pay for the gas station. He later charged police with wrongful arrests and excessive use of force. Therefore, he was motivated to falsify testimony in order to retaliate against the police. The 12 jurors agreed after deliberations, and the court convicted Carl Harris of second-degree murder and sentenced him to 25 years in prison. After the sentencing, Carl refused to accept the verdict, and he appealed to the New York Supreme Court. The defense is also actively looking for new evidence to prove Carl's innocence while the case awaits trial. A colleague at Michelle's restaurant recalled, there was a man named Stacy Stewart who often came to see Michelle in the restaurant, and their relationship seemed extraordinary. Investigators tried to find the Stacy, but the person seemed to disappear and could not be found, so they found Stacy's then-girlfriend. She said Stacy had said he had killed a person during Michelle's disappearance, and that he was fleeing to Texas to avoid the limelight. The third trial was held in the Schoharie County Courthouse in January 2015. Defense witness Kevin testified in court again. He said that he was carrying licorice in his car at the time, so the speed was not fast. After the appearance of the new suspect, Kevin said that the person he saw that day was Stacy, not Carl. The defense also reminded the court that Stacy did own a black Chevrolet pickup. This is consistent with the pickup truck described in witness Kevin's previous testimony. Another border witness said he drove back to town from New York on the day of the crime. He passed the place at about 12:30 in the morning and did not see a car parked on the side of the road. A nearby resident said he passed the crime scene at 5:30 a.m. that day. There were indeed two cars parked on the side of the road at that time, which corresponds to what Kevin said. Then the 12 jurors began their deliberations. However, they were unable to reach an agreement after lengthy discussions, and the case reached a jury deadlock. The judge declared the case mistrial in accordance with the law and will retry the case on another day. In order to speed up the trial of the case, New York State Supreme Court Judge Richard Mott proposed a bench trial, which is a judge's trial. A judge's trial is a judge-only trial without a jury, which Carl accepts. On March 31, 2016, the case was heard again. This time the prosecution has a new witness, named Gregory Farr, a prisoner. Carl is being held at the Auburn Correctional Facility to serve his sentence after being found guilty in the second instance. The witness is Carl's cellmate. He said Carl had threatened another inmate in prison. Carl was yelling that I'd make you disappear like I made my wife disappear. Carl remained silent in court. Defense witness Stacy's girlfriend testified. She said the case may be related to a man named David Thomason. This person is a friend of Stacy's. Defense investigators had located David, who committed crimes in Texas shortly after Michelle disappeared and was in jail. But David refused to testify and did not answer any questions. His wife, who was invited to testify, said her husband David went to a bar with Michelle and Stacy on the night of September 11, 2001. David left first, while Michelle and Stacy were still together, and after that Michelle disappeared. David had told her that Stacy had killed Michelle and buried her somewhere in concrete. But since Carl was convicted, he no longer worries. Not long after Michelle disappeared, both Stacy and David went to Texas. Investigators found a burnt pit in the grass near a house in Barton, New York, more than 2 months before the trial. The house was purchased by suspect Stacy. When they dug the hole, they found an underwear strap, a key, a button and beige fabric, among other items. The defense said it was the item Michelle was carrying that day. Investigators traveled to Texas and located Stacy's car, which was sold. They found blood on the back seat and door of the car, as well as an earring that matched the one Carl had bought for Michelle. Some residents near the burning pit said they had seen Stacy burning a blood-stained garment after Michelle went missing. But police have been unable to locate the Stacy. In May 2016, after a month-long trial, the case was handed down by a judge. Defendant Carl Harris was acquitted and released in court. Carl told reporters after the sentencing, "My life is finally back to normal." The case went through 4 trials, and Carl was finally acquitted. However, Michelle's family still believes the case is related to Carl, and they are still looking for new evidence. Investigators also found some evidence at the suspect Stacy's residence. But Stacy himself disappeared, just like Michelle disappeared. As for whether Michelle's case is related to her husband Carl, maybe only he knows.